In love, brother Sydney, Dr. Umar. How's Indianapolis treating you?
It's cold.
I hear that. I hear that. Go right ahead with your question, good brother.
So, my son I'm an Army veteran. I mean, I did it like a lot of that kind of stuff. I was in the Army for 8 years, and I found out that I had kids when I got back.
Okay.
And I've been doing everything that I possibly can to be like in their life every single day.
Okay.
Like if it's the last thing that I do that day, then I make it home to see them.
Okay.
But in my absence, my son is I don't want to call him a punk because that would be an insult. He's just very soft.
Okay. How old is your son?
He's 5.
He's 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so why do you feel that a 5-year-old boy could be soft or be a punk at 5?
No. I don't feel like he's a punk. I
Okay.
feel like he's just very soft, like around the edges. I'm trying to make him like stronger and I guess in a way you could say more like me,
Okay. And when
where I can trust him to protect my family if in my absence.
Okay, but at 5 years old, are you sure that you are not adultifying him too soon? Because he's only 5. So he's not at an age where he could protect anyone right now.
No, absolutely not. I completely agree. It's not that I'm trying to adultify him. I'm trying to get him ahead of schedule because these things, life kicks you before you're ready to be kicked. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I don't want my son to go through the same thing that I went through. I had an abusive mother and an absent father that only came in my life when I was 16 years old.
Okay. And you have to make sure that the trauma you faced, you have to make sure that your trauma is not now being transferred to your son from you.
Yes, which I'm working. I completely agree, but I'm also working very vigilantly towards that. If that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Now, do you live with him?
Yes.
Okay. And the mother is there as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we that's how we found out that they were my kids.
Okay. Now, here's the other thing, and this is going to be very important for you. You're going to have to make sure your son gets what you didn't as a child, and that is emotional support from his father. You're going to have to be very emotionally supportive because you didn't get it. And because you didn't get it, you may not necessarily know how to show it. So you're going to have to work on that because how you said.
Yeah, I think that's my issue is that I don't know how to show it. I try.
Because here's
like
my.
I give him.
Go ahead.
I give him everything that he asked for. Like, if as long as it's in my capability. I bought him an Xbox 2 days ago.
Okay. Because here's my fear. Let me give you what my fear is. My fear is that if you don't provide your son with emotional support, but you expect him to behave in a traditional masculine manner, in other words, you want him to be strong and tough, but if you make those demands without providing him with the emotional support as he works towards becoming a man, you will lose him and he will end up being traumatized. And he could also become a candidate to be drafted by the Rainbow Army. And you know what the Rainbow Army is. Because what happens is strong black men who expect their sons to become strong black men, who do not provide their sons with emotional support, they end up engendering within their son a belief that they are inadequate as men. If your
Okay.
son develops a belief that he is inadequate as a man because his father is holding them to a high standard of masculinity, but at the same time not providing him with the emotional support that he needs, he can start questioning his manhood. And if he runs
Okay.
into the wrong people, they will help him question his manhood, and they will try to influence him to abandon his manhood, if that makes sense to you.
Okay. Yes, it does.
So
But
you gotta
so
be
let me ask you
emotionally
this.
supportive. You gotta be
I'll give you
emotionally
a
supportive.
prime. I'll give you a prime example. He has like listening issues and stuff like that. So he likes to jump down the stairs. And I've told him before, don't jump down the stairs, son. I try to be gentle. Like I'm actively trying. And I'm like, don't jump down the stairs. You're gonna hurt yourself.
Do you have anger management issues?
I did. I've been in therapy for the last 3 years.
Okay, because the way you present, good brother, the way you present, I'm a little concerned that you're going to be a bit too hard on those boys.
I mean, it's easier to be soft on my daughter than it is on my son because my daughter, I mean, in the perfect world, she'd always have her daddy to protect her.
Right.
And,
So are you still in therapy?
Yes.
Okay. I think there probably will also need to be some family sessions as your sons get older. And I think it would also be a good idea for them to get some therapy sessions right now, even if it's just play therapy.
I can manage that. Yeah, I can pay for that.
Yeah, I think you want to make sure that happens.
It's not that I'm trying to be hard on them. It's that I know how fast I had to grow up.
Let me ask you a question. In the military, did you have any tours of duty where you experienced combat?
4. I was an infantryman, actually.
And so you saw combat. Did you see combat, actual combat?
Yes.
In what theaters, if you don't mind me asking?
3 in Afghanistan and 1 in Poland and Ukraine.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been evaluated to see if you have post-traumatic stress disorder?
Yes, and I do.
You
That's
have
why
PTSD.
I was medically discharged from the Army because of it.
Okay, you were medically discharged from the Army for post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay.
Yeah, because I told a soldier that I got that she didn't belong in this world because it's combat is extreme, and she was under this impression like she was using too many feelings for me, I should say.
Okay.
And she was saying that it was a snow bunny, let's be honest here. But she was, you don't control who your soldiers are.
Okay.
But at this point I'm a staff sergeant, so I E6 in the Army.
Okay.
And I told her that if you can carry me up this hill, which it's called Hill 400. It's 400 meters in the sky is why it's called that. It also has like World War II vibes and all that behind it. But I said, if you can carry me up this hill, then I'll trust you. But personally, I don't, because all you do is cry and be a baby.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you something. Do you think, first of all, do you have recurrent dreams or nightmares from your tours of duty when you sleep? Do you have nightmares or dreams?
Yes.
Okay.
I have this nightmare. I don't want to be graphic on live, but basically, it was the day that my best friend died, and I shot a round that was incendiary on accident. I was still pretty young in the Army. And it burned the entire field of grass, which I'm talking about like 4 foot tall grass. And that's the dream that I have over and over again.
Okay. The reason I brought that up, do you think it's safe? I'm wondering, it could be safe, but do you think it's safe for you to be in a home with those children? Like PTSD?
Yes, absolutely. No. I'm not. I don't take it out on them at all. I make it a job not to.
Right, but if you have a PTSD dream or a nightmare,
Can you give me a second, please, son?
you
I'll
may
talk to you in
not
a minute, okay?
you may not know that you're going through an episode though. That's the problem with PTSD. Sometimes you have trouble discriminating between reality and imagination.
Yeah, I mean, I do exercises like mindfulness and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Well, do you think the
Like,
therapist has helped you enough? Is it time for you to get a new therapist?
so I did get a new one. I had a white therapist, and my therapist wanted to focus more on my like childhood trauma than she wanted she wanted to focus on like the real problem, which was obviously my PTSD.
Okay.
And so I requested another therapist, and I got this beautiful black queen that is my only second to my wife,
Okay.
because she's just that good of a person. She has 6 boys. Like, we talk all the time. I can call her anytime I want to.
Okay.
And she actually listens.
Okay.
Excuse my French.
Understood, bro. Okay. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap up, but you have my number. So if you ever need to reach out to me for a consult or something, let me know. You know what I mean? But I wish you well in that. You know, if you ever need to help find
When would I be able to schedule a consultation?
Just shoot me a text message next week and we can schedule it.
Okay.
Okay, bro. Be safe now.
You too.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Umar.
No problem. If you have a question about your son or daughter, please text me 215-989-9858 if you have a question about your son or daughter. Okay, let me go to the next person. Good morning, Sister Keela. You're live with Dr. Umar on the Black Parent Teleconference. How's the Bronx treating you?
Oh, it's cold out here right now.
It's cold out
But
there.
I'm doing well.
All right, go right ahead with your question, beautiful.
Yes, so I am a single parent. I'm a Afro-Latina.
What's your nationality, if you don't mind me asking?
My parents are Honduran, and I was born in the Bronx.
Gotcha. No problem. Honduras, African. Go right ahead.
That's right. I am a single parent of a young black boy. I also have a 13-year-old daughter. I've been, taking him to his doctor lately, and she's been telling me, like, because of, like, him not being able to stay still and stuff like that, that she wants to monitor him in that sense. But he's only 2. Raising my daughter was very easy. Her father also wasn't that involved in her life as well. My daughter is in the honor roll. She's graduating this year. We're hoping that she becomes valedictorian. She's very intelligent. But with my son, it's like I'm getting a whole different story. And I feel like that's kind of like the setup for, him not succeeding. And as a single parent, I just want to make sure that he's getting all the things that he needs. So I know at some point I need to raise him differently. I just need the guidance, I guess.
Okay, he's 2 right now, right?
He's 2.
And you said the doctor said she wanted to monitor him?
Yeah, because like with his doctor visit, he wasn't like staying still. He was all over the place, wasn't making eye contact with her. But he's been at home with me since he's been born. He hasn't been to a daycare center. He hasn't been. That's another fear that I have too. I'm scared of leaving my kids with other people, especially here in the Bronx. Like, there's so much violence against children here, so I don't, leave him with anybody else. He's always with me.
So let me ask you a question. What is the doctor concerned about? Like, she's monitoring him because she believes he may have what? What is her potential concern?
She was saying like that he probably has like autism.
Don't let anybody diagnose your son with autism before 5 years old.
Exactly.
Okay, because here's what you need to know. At his age, anything we think he has could be wrong. He's too young for anybody to be certain. So you have to be really, really careful about that. Because the way the system is set up, special ed and early intervention, they want to get paid off your son. So they're going to try to force you to label him as soon as possible so they can start getting money for him. It's all about the money. So you're going to have to resist some of that until you feel that something's wrong with your son. It ain't up to them. It's up to you. And I tell parents all the time, I'd rather go off of your feeling than the so-called experts, because they are often wrong when it comes to our children.
Exactly. Right. I also do work with the school system, not directly, but I know the operations of like how schools work here in the Bronx. So I have an understanding. I just want to make sure that I'm preparing him in the sense that, does he need to be in a daycare where he is socializing with other people? Does he need to, like, what steps do I take to prepare him for this? Because at this point, I just feel like I don't want him, I'm just trying to prevent him from going down that road.
Right.
Does he need more exposure? We do great things here in the house. He's very good with his numbers, ABCs. He knows mostly everything, his shapes, colors, all of that. My daughter was able to read by 2, so I'm trying to get him to do the same thing. But, I just don't, it's been lingering with me with her saying that. Like, I don't feel like anything is wrong with him.
If there is a suspicion of autism, you definitely have to make sure that he's interacting with other children his age.
Okay.
Right? Because autism is an impairment in social and verbal communication. And so you're going to have to make sure you're he's interacting with other children his age. So whether that's daycare, whether that's preschool, whether that's just taking him to the playground, whether that's arranging play dates with kids in the neighborhood. I mean, there is a myriad of different forms that it can take. But as his mother, you have to make sure he's getting adequate social interaction, because the worst thing you can do to any kid is deprive them of meaningful social experiences with new children. And if he's autistic, it becomes even worse. So make sure he's getting his social interaction. It can't just be his siblings. At least once a week, he needs to be interacting with other children his age outside the home.
Okay. So you're saying that it would be a good idea to start putting him into daycare.
It don't have to be daycare. It don't have to be daycare. You could just arrange some play dates. If you know of some other parents with 2-year-olds, Y'all could just go to the park, or they could come to your house for a few hours. It doesn't have to be daycare. It can be daycare, but it doesn't have to be daycare. You can simply arrange some play dates with some other parents of 2-year-olds in your neighborhood.
Okay. Okay. And then also, because, I am a single parent and his father is not around, I just want some guidance on what I can start doing now to just help him become a man, basically.
Okay. Well, at two is too soon, for the manhood training. Right now,
Of course.
the most important things for you to do is to shower him with love and to start teaching him self-control by introducing a little bit of discipline, making him sit for maybe 2 minutes at a time, and then maybe he'll get a little reward for doing that. You want to introduce a little bit of discipline, a little bit of focus, a little bit of concentration. So if you do decide to put him in preschool or daycare, he knows how to act. Because if he don't, the first thing they're going to want to do is force you to have him diagnosed with ADHD so they can drug him into compliance. So start introducing a little bit of discipline. But at 2 years old, it's all about books. It's all about problem solving toys, your Legos, your building blocks, coloring books, your flashcards with the numbers, your flashcards with the letters, your flashcards with the colors and the sizes and the shapes, all those general basic sets of information. That's what you need to be surrounding him with now. And a lot of books. You should be reading to him so he will want to read to himself.
Yes.
It's all about the vocab.
We're reading. He has a favorite book, but we're reading like 2 books a day. Yeah. And we do have the flashcards at home. He's really good with his letters and all that other stuff, but he does have a tablet. He does. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. Be careful with that tablet because remember, them tablets fry that brain. It destroys concentration and focus. So, if you're giving him 30 minutes 3 times a day, I can live with that, but he cannot have that tablet all day. It's cooking his brain. It's destroying his concentration and focus.
Got you. I'm writing all of this
They
down.
need books, not tablets. They need books. Books, coloring books, crayons. That's what he needs, not the tablet.
Got you. Thank you so much.
No problem, Queen.
I love it. Thank you.
Be safe now.
God bless you.
You too, baby. All right now.
Bye-bye. Hello, this is Giselle speaking.
Good morning, Sister Giselle. You're live with Dr. Umar on the Black Parent Teleconference. How's Chicago treating you?
I'm in Chicago. I'm from Chicago, but I'm right now in Costa Rica.
You in Costa Rica. I spoke in Costa Rica last August 17th for Marcus Garvey's birthday at the UNIA Hall in Costa Rica.
Oh, wonderful.
Were you there then? Were you there in August?
Not at that time.
Okay, I got you. Go right ahead with your question.
Yes. So my question involves, moving abroad with my children. I have 2 children that's here. We've been living here for quite a while now. And my question is, how can I help my children adjust to moving abroad, the education system, while living here? 1 second. I think I have the wrong question because I wrote down some of them.
It's okay.
Okay, this is my question here. Okay, so how does moving to a new country and a new school affect my child's cognitive development? And how can I ensure that they stay on track academically if we decide to go back to the States?
Well, the thing is, I don't know enough about the Costa Rica school system, but your biggest challenge is going to be evaluating how closely aligned their curriculum and quality of education is with his home state in America. Because if you plan to bring him back to the schools in America, you're going to need to make sure that the education he's getting there is commensurate. It could be better. Some countries you go to, their education is better than the United States, but you want to make sure that it is at least as good. And if it isn't, you're going to have to supplement his education yourself at home in Costa Rica. And one of the things that I recommend you do is download the state standards for the next couple grades. So if you say I might be in Costa Rica 3 years, download 3 to 4 years of state standards. So let's say he's in the 3rd grade, right? Download the 3rd, download the 4th, download the 5th, download the 6th state level standards for your state, and take those with you so you can look at what they're teaching and look at what his home state requires. And then that way you can help determine if he's on level, if he's still staying where he needs to be in case you guys move back. So you basically just need a guide, to help you evaluate whether or not he's staying on course. And I think downloading the state standards would be a good way to do that. You could also purchase you a copy of the Common Core curriculum. About half the states, they're on the Common Core. It's not perfect, but it does give you a pretty strong foundation of what children should be learning. So you could just order you from Amazon a Common Core handbook for parents, and you can also see that way, where he should be. But I think downloading the state standards, if that's the state that you'll probably be moving back to, I think downloading the state standards will be good enough as well.
Understood. And just the backstory that I did homeschool my children since they were born. And then the first time they attended an actual school setting was in Costa Rica. So having the experience in America in school, they had it maybe for a couple of months, a program in Chicago for like 2 months. And Dad and I really did not care for it. So we took them out of that program. And then now we're back in Costa Rica, and they're another school education program. And I'm still doing the homeschooling while they're in school there as well, because it's different language. But I just wanted to make sure that, or just ask that while I'm raising them in another country, that they're developing, well. I'm not, because I'm doing it by myself right now. And I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything while they're getting older. They're about to be 5 and 6 in the next coming months. So they're still pretty young.
Oh yeah, they're still pretty young. So you're good right now. You're basically at that age. Again, it's all about literacy, and it's all about developing the different faculties of the mind. The blocks, the Legos, the coloring books, nothing but books. Be careful with the video games and TV and internet. Just make sure you're drilling with them foundations. A lot of facts, letters, numbers, sizes, shapes, any kind of facts. That's where you are right now. It's all about the literacy. It's all about the images right now. It's all about the blocks and the puzzles right now. Limit the TV, limit the internet, limit the tablets, limit the games.
Yes. Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem, Queen. Be blessed down there. Okay, now.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
I have a question from Sister Valerie. Does in-school suspension count as a suspension towards the 10 days? Yes, it does. If your child has an IEP, which means they have a disability, which means they are a special ed child, in-school suspension is considered suspension. So remember, a special ed child can only be suspended for 10 total days out the entire 180-day school year. If the school wants to suspend that child an 11th day or more, the IEP team must conduct a manifestation determination to see if the behavior for which they will be suspended is that behavior related to their disability. And if it is, they cannot suspend them. If that behavior is related to their failure to properly implement the IEP, then they will not be able to suspend him. In-school suspension days count towards that 10 total days of suspension. So if your child has 10 in-school suspension days, they cannot give him an 11th in-school suspension day without conducting the manifestation determination if the child has an IEP. Yes, in-school suspension counts. Let me see who else we got. Jaleesa.
Hello.
Good morning, Sister Jaleesa. You're live with Dr. Umar in the Black Parent Teleconference. How's St. Paul, Minnesota treating you?
Good morning. It's treating me well. It's treating me well. Okay. I've been here for a while.
Go right ahead with your question.
So my question was, I logged off to the live for a while, so I'm forgiving if anything is repetitive, but I have a son who is in the 3rd grade and he was diagnosed with ADHD and ODD. He was first evaluated back in kindergarten and then reevaluated recently. And I kind of like, I heard you talk about how like medicine is bad and then the label of ADHD is bad, but this is, and now I guess I'm more so needing help with figuring out how to navigate the guilt, because where I'm at with my son now, I feel like we're at a good place. And the thing is, it's with the things that you said, not to do. And I started listening to you and paying attention too late, I would say. But I'm like, okay, so things are working right now. My son is medicated. He's on 60 milligrams of methylphenidate. And this is our 2nd year. And it's working. So I'm like, okay, well, I do believe, like, I would rather him not be on medicine, but I'm like, what do I do in the sense that the plan is working? Like, should I be invested in trying to get him off of medicine now, or like? But I'm fearful that will cause us to go backwards in what's happening. I'm not sure if you understand where I'm coming from or what I'm saying with that.
Let me ask you a question. What grade is he in right now?
He's in 3rd grade.
He's in the 3rd grade, and he was first diagnosed with ADHD in what grade?
And I think it was kindergarten when we first got him evaluated, and I worked with our primary care to get him diagnosed, I do believe within that same year, like going into 1st grade.
Okay. And he's been on Ritalin for 2 years, because methylphenidate, that's Ritalin.
Yeah. Yes,
so
that's right.
He's been on Ritalin for 2 years. Okay,
that's right.
First of all, you need to be careful with that, because the long-term side effects of that medication is nothing to play with. It can cause weight gain, weight loss, sleeping problems. It can mess with his organs, heart function, his ability to have children later in life. He can grow breasts, kill brain cells. There's a lot of side effects that come with them childhood psychiatric meds.
Okay.
And had we spoken 2 years ago, I would have told you, do not get him diagnosed with ADHD, because the only reason why they wanted him diagnosed is so they could drug him. The only thing they have for ADHD in America is drugs. That's it. So unless you plan to drug your child, there's no need for that diagnosis. None at all. Okay. Now, with that being said, let me ask you this. Does he have an IEP?
He does. And I should add on to this that the diagnosis came after being constantly targeted by my school, his schools, and the daycare, being that he was having behavioral problems. And the only reason I went with the ADHD and ODD diagnosis is because, and like, I followed into it because working with his father and his grandmother, his dad's mom, his father was diagnosed with those things too. And, so I was like, okay, well, I assumed it was inherited from them. And so I was trying to get away from the idea that my son was being stigmatized, but I'm starting to realize his father was probably stigmatized. And so I just fell right into it. So like my thing is like I see the effects. Well,
I guess I'm trying to unlearn the acceptance of my son, like being told that my son has ADHD, because I see the effects that they're talking about. I see the things that they've talked about, the behavioral issues, and then I see I see how the medicine works, and so I'm so conflicted in not knowing what to do moving forward, because I've looked into the medicine more, and I don't like all of the things that I saw. Even though it's working for me today, I am fearful for my son's future, and I feel like that it's my responsibility to, look into those things. So is it now that I just go back and say, let's reverse all of these things. Let's stop the medication. Let's, turn down. I don't even know if that's possible.
Let me give you a couple things. Number one, because he's been on the medication for 2 years now, he could be chemically dependent. He could be. Okay, so that's one thing. You have to wean him off slowly. The second thing, if you're going to take him off the medication, I strongly suggest that you get a letter from the pediatrician or the prescribing psychiatrist that says they're working with you to wean him off of methylphenidate, because you guys are going to try some other strategies to deal with his behavior. The reason you want that letter, good sister, is if the school finds out that you stopped medicating your son and you did so without the supervision of a licensed physician, they may call Child Protective Services on you for discontinuing the medication. And if Child Protective Services gets involved in your case, you can be charged with child abuse for failure to medicate. It's called medical neglect, and they will remove all of your children from the home. So this ADHD ain't nothing to play with, because a lot of Black parents are having their children removed from their home because they stop medicating after they see the side effects. So yes, I do want you to pull him off slowly, but under the supervision of the pediatrician or the prescribing psychiatrist. In other words, you need something on paper that says a doctor is helping me do this and a doctor agrees with me doing this. Okay. Now, there's a lot of herbal remedies that you could try. There's a product called Calm Child. There's another product called Be Calm. There's another product called Melissa Supreme. There's all kind of products that you can get from Whole Foods or even off Amazon that are designed without no side effects, all natural herbs and extracts from plants and fruits and veggies that can help calm your child down. The difference between the herbal remedy ADHD and the psychiatric remedies for ADHD is the psychiatric remedies work faster, but they have dangerous side effects. The herbal remedies work slower, but there are no side effects. Okay.
And, I hear you on that, especially because before I agreed to trying medicine, I did turn to trying to do some herbal alternatives, and they did work. And like you said, they worked for me. They worked slower. They didn't work as fast. And I swear, I feel really guilty, and because I feel like I fell for the trap. And it's working.
You didn't know no better, though. It's okay, and they don't want y'all to know no better. But that's why I'm here. My job is to make sure y'all don't fall for the traps.
I'm just nervous now, though, because the thing is, like, before it was constant issues with behavior, and then, like, it was taken away from his learning. And now that he's medicated, the behavioral issues are still there occasionally. I've had that before we did medication. We did therapy. We got evaluated. When I didn't agree with his IEP, I was in the meetings. I would ask for second opinions, get reevaluated things, and worked with our primary care too, and our therapist. But I still, like, it just was getting, I don't want to say it wasn't getting me nowhere. It just was going at a slower pace. And so then when we turned to the medicine and it started working, it was like seriously, like a 180 almost, like, because he still has behavioral issues, but they consider them normal now. They don't use the term normal, of course, but I know how they're presenting it to me is that, oh, he's, normal now. And so, but I'm getting to the point where they're like inquiring about the dosage of his medicine. And that's where I'm like, now y'all are just wanting me to dope my son up. So I'm like, even though it's working, I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm like wanting to steer away from that. But how do I address the behavioral issue that I know will come back into play, and then they've already experienced the quote unquote normal version of my son, and then I'm taking him off meds, and they won't have as strong power using, the herbal remedies. How do I deal with that?
Okay, let me go somewhere else with this. You said he has an IEP, right?
Yes.
What is his disability? What is the reason for which he has that IEP? He must have one of the disabilities: intellectual disability, learning disability, emotional disturbance, other health impairment for ADHD and stuff like that. What exactly is the reason for his IEP? What is the disability?
Behavioral irregulation. Forgive me, I'm not at home.
Okay. Now stay with me, because behavioral regulation is not one of the 13 categories. Is it possible that it is other health impairment for ADHD, or is it for a learning disability like reading, math, comprehension, or is it emotional disturbance?
It would be qualified as emotional disturbance then.
Are you sure?
I would have to. I'm almost positive. I just don't have the paperwork in front of me, and
It's okay. Well, let me give you this. Going forward, now your son's school district is predominantly white or black, the students?
I live in a really diverse area, so I can't even say that it's predominantly anything. I wish I could show you. It's there. He's in a very diverse school, and that is in the works of me, because I pulled him from a school that was more predominantly white that he was initially in. Well, that they assigned us for our district. I now have him in a school outside of our district that is a lot more diverse. Now it's not predominantly black, but I wouldn't say that it's predominantly white.
Okay, let me give you this. You said it may be for emotional disturbance. It could be for other health impairment for ADHD, but I need you to really understand something. Your son, well, let me back up. Is he in a full-time special ed class, or is he in a regular class and he gets pulled out?
He's in a regular class and he gets pulled out.
He's in a regular class and he gets pulled out. Okay, so that's good. Now, in your opinion, do you believe he primarily has the IEP for behavior or for learning?
For behavior, because I feel like
Hold that thought. Does he have trouble learning at all? Do you have any concerns about your son's ability to learn? Okay, so let me share something with you right now. Let me share something with you. You can only qualify for special ed in the United States if you have a disability that affects your learning. Now, your son is diagnosed with ADHD, ODD. If his ADHD and ODD does not affect his ability to learn in the regular class, he cannot legally have an IEP. You follow me?
Yes.
What he should have is a 504 plan. And one thing I want you to consider is asking the school to eliminate the IEP. Tell them you don't want it because my son don't have no learning problems. Y'all only gave him an IEP for behavior, and had I known that he should never have qualified for special ed because he don't have learning problems, I would have never agreed to this. What I do want my son to have is a 504 plan. Now let me explain the difference to you, Queen. A IEP is a learning program for a child who has trouble learning, and it modifies the instruction. In other words, it dumbs down the curriculum so your child can learn. That's what an IEP is. An IEP is a dumbed down curriculum for your child because they don't believe he can learn on the same level as other children in his grade. So IEP is modification of instruction. You follow me on that?
Yes.
Modification of instruction. The 504 is not modification of instruction. If your son gets a 504, he gets the same regular curriculum as everybody else in the classroom. But what the 504 does give him is reasonable accommodations in the school setting so he can function. Reasonable accommodations in the school setting so he can function. Let me give you some of those accommodations. Extra time to take his tests. A one-to-one aide to sit with him in the classrooms where he most needed. Regular breaks from the classroom. A behavior plan. School counseling if he needs it. And I don't recommend school counseling because all they do is dig into your business instead of working with your son in your business. But my question to you is, do you feel your son could succeed in the regular class where he already is anyway, and you got rid of the IEP and got him a 504 plan instead?
I now that I now and you know I acknowledge I know people are eating me alive. I I felt as though I was doing the right thing, and I invested in the IEP, and I'm learning now about the 504. And I do think that that would be something. No, not even think. I know that is something that I'm going to follow up on Monday, because my kid's daycare has requested a new copy of his IEP, so I'm already having to make contact. And I do think a 504 plan would be something, because my son does not struggle at all with learning. Like I can't even. I wish I could say it. Not at all. It all stems from behavior, and I learned. I'm realizing in this moment that I've really been treated like a joke.
It's okay. It's okay, mama.
I'm listening to learn.
Stay strong. Stay strong. It's okay. You around family, so if you got to shed a tear, you shed a tear. It's not fair. Okay. First of all, we as black men are leaving you women out there to take on the whole school to prison pipeline by yourself. We don't go with y'all to these meetings, not even for our sons. Okay, so we as black men, we have to shoulder some of this. We are not helping our women fight to protect our sons in these schools. And then the schools are not telling you guys the truth. They're not giving you the right information. They're manipulating you and only telling you what they want you to know. So don't be upset. Don't be ashamed. Don't be disappointed. You are one of millions of black mothers who are going through this, and you have Dr. Umar by your side. You will not have to go through this by yourself. So stay strong. Shed your tear, and you keep on going. We come from a legacy of struggle. This is what we do. We go through it, and we get through it. So don't. It's okay. It's okay. But I want you to think about switching him to the 504. But before you do that, I want you to check in with me, because I want to make sure you know what you need to do, right?
Okay.
Now, here's something else I need you to understand. I'm going to give you 3 more points before I let you go.
Okay.
Point number 1. If your son is a major behavior problem, I want you to think about this. If your son is a major behavior problem, we can't eliminate the IEP, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't know if you heard me say earlier that in special ed, a child can only be suspended 10 total days. That's total days out of one total. Now, if we give up that IEP and put him on a 504, like any other child, he can be suspended 10 days per incident. I want to make sure you understand the difference. A regular ed child in America can be suspended 10 days per incident. A special ed child can only be suspended 10 days total through the entire 180-day school year. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do. He's never been suspended from school.
So, okay, good. So that means that's not an issue then. Because if you told me he was badass and he's always getting in trouble, then I would say we might got to keep the IEP, because we cannot afford.
Dr. Umar, let me tell you, the lady who called and said, oh, can you please, I don't want him, her son throws tears. That was my son. I just thought that instead of them saying that, oh, we're suspending him or we're sending him home, I went in that classroom and I stayed with my son those days in that classroom. That's why my son got suspended. This all started with the daycare, honestly, telling me, oh, we think that this, and then I started looking into things, working with his doctor. So it was like, I feel like I damn near set him up for this, because I just went with what the daycare was telling me, because my son is in the 3rd grade and has never been suspended from school. He has been sent home, but like not suspended where he couldn't come back the next. Like they try to say, oh, we need him to be picked up because this incident happened. But in those cases, I say I'm on my way, and I would stay in the class, and I would sit in the classroom so that he could stay there the whole day, or So I don't know if that's why he's never technically been suspended, but like the suspension hasn't occurred because I don't know, they won't let it occur, but the behavior to cause suspension is there. It's just
Let me hit you with something else. Because he has an IEP, and even if you switch to the 504, this will still be a right of his. Have you ever received a letter or a phone call or an email requesting your attendance at an IEP meeting?
Yes.
So they listen
Yes.
to me. Wait. So they could determine. So they could develop a functional behavioral assessment and positive behavior plan. Have you ever heard of the concept functional behavioral assessment? Have you ever seen that written down? FBA. Functional.
Yeah. And they have to do follow-ups to see what progress he's made in that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if he has a behavior plan, the question then becomes, is it effective? Because if it's not, they need to revisit it. To me, it doesn't sound like your son needs an IEP. Because if they only gave him an IEP for behavior and he's never been suspended, I mean, why he got the IEP at all? He shouldn't have it anyway because he had trouble learning. But it doesn't even sound like he needed it for the reason they gave it to him.
You are really speaking to me today, and I have been sitting here in comfort because the phone calls have, stopped. Besides, we just follow daily because I that's just how the communication that I set up between my kids and their teachers. But I'm having like a realization on this call in this moment that like I don't feel like my son needs to have an IEP. Like his learning. He doesn't struggle with his learning at all, and if that's
Then
all
he shouldn't have an IEP. Then he should not. Are you pretty confident that if you remove the IEP, he won't start getting suspended? Right.
I'm pretty confident, but the thing is, I think if I remove the IEP, then with that, if I stop the medication, the behavior will get in the way of him.
So you saying he's not getting in trouble because he's being sedated by the meds?
Basically.
So this is what we should do then. We should work with the pediatrician or psychiatrist to eliminate the meds, and let's see how he does without the meds. Because he's been on them for 2 years. He's been on them for 2 years. That's a long time. Let's get him off the meds and see how he does. He might not have the problem no more. He was medicated 2 years ago. That's first grade. He's in the 3rd grade now. He should be fine without it.
I don't give him. That's given medication only Monday through Friday. I don't give it to him on weekends. And I'm going to be honest, Dr. Umar. I see the struggle. It's hard on me, but I just am like, I don't need my son medicated when he's with me, but I can see the benefits of it from when I had, because I was tested with me, and I'm like, dang, it is like a difference. And I'm like, okay, so I have a lot of work to do. I thought I did a lot of work already before, but I'm realizing I have a lot more work to do. I'm definitely interested in the 504 plan. I'm absolutely interested in that, and I do think I'm fearful that if I wean him off the meds, he's gonna need the IEP for the sake of his education may be impacted because of his behavior.
But we don't know, and we have to see, Queen, because we don't want him. The drugs are no good. The IEP is no good. But the drugs are the more critical, because that can cause irreversible damage. So let's wean them off and see. If you say I got to put him back on the meds, I hope you don't. But if you say that, so be it. But give him a chance to show us what he can do without the meds, because he's been on them for 2 years. Give him a chance.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Give him a chance. It's been 2 years. Give him a chance.
Okay.
And talk to him about it. Say, hey, we're going to do this, man, and I want you to try to do your best.
Because and I'm like, he's kind of a too, because I talked to him the conversation I had to my son about his ADHD. We watched the videos. I tried to find kid YouTube to understand, and he can confidently tell me, like, it's to the point where he'll remind me, or he'll tell me, like, Mom, can I have my medicine, or something. So I'm like, I was conflicted when I first initiated, or when he first called me, but now I'm really feeling confident in wanting to get him off the meds. But
well, this is what I want you to do. I just want you to think about it for now. For the next week or so, just think about it. But if I'm in your position, I'm getting me a letter from the pediatrician psychiatrist. They're going to wean my son off of this because I want to see how he does without it. Just tell him that he's been on it for 2 years. It's time for me to see what my son can do without it. Can you please give me a statement that says you're working with me to take him off just so we can see how he functions? You know what I mean? And they'll probably start stepping him down in doses first before they completely cut him off. And let's see how he does. And if he starts to act up, let's try some herbal remedies. But also, you got to make sure he ain't getting too much sugar. You got to make sure he ain't getting too much caffeine. You got to make sure he ain't getting too much red and green food dye. You got to make sure he's not getting too much high fructose corn syrup. You got to make sure that the functional behavioral assessment and a positive behavior plan is effective and current. And if need be, you need to make the IEP team give your son a one-to-one aid as well. You know what I'm saying? So there's other things that need to be done besides drugs. So let's take him off the drugs. Let's see how he does. And let's make sure he's getting all the other supports as well.
Absolutely.
So you have my number. I want to hear from you in about 2 weeks to let me know what you decided.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Queen,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Be blessed. All right now.
You too. Hello.
Good morning, Sister Shamika. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Yourself?
All right. Where you calling from, Queen?
Maryland.
Maryland. What part?
Small town called Waldorf.
Okay, Waldorf. I spoke in Waldorf 2 years ago.
Okay.
So you're about 2 hours from the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy in Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay. I know I'm 2 hours from Delaware.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead with your question, beautiful.
I sent you a message a while ago. This was like a year ago. They was trying to put my son in speech therapy. Through the state. I declined and never did it. But then this year they accidentally, so they say, put him in a speech class and was taking him out of class. When my son come home, I talked to my son. So long story short, I figured out that they was taking him out of class, but they was never telling me. I never agreed. I never signed anything. Then it came time when I found out, I told them I had an issue with the school, had an issue with the state. I told him to expunge it off his record. I didn't want it to show that he was a IEP student because technically he shouldn't have been an IEP student. So they put me through heck. They said that they was going to expunge it off his records. Then I get an email saying that they can't expunge it and take it off the record. They can take him out the class. So I'm literally in the midst of trying to figure out a way for them to expunge it off of his record. Everybody is trying to say, hey, he's only in pre-K. It's not that serious. But I don't know. It's one of those things. Then I talk to other psychiatrists that work in school systems. And she's telling me how, like, people, it don't normally be effective. But, like, they have issues where they have to go all the way back to the child's elementary days, and it can come back and hurt the child.
Okay. So let me back up. How old is the child now?
5.
Okay. Is he in school yet? What grade?
He's in pre-K. He's in pre-K.
Okay. And they wanted him evaluated for speech.
No. At the beginning, a year ago, we was kind of concerned because he was in a private school, and we had him in like a private school setting, and the teacher was like, your son is very smart. She's like, I really want to teach him how to start reading. At this time, he was 3 and some change. I said, okay. I said, she said, but I'm concerned about his speech. And I said, oh, how he pronounces words sometimes. She said, yes. She said, but he's not too bad because even though he'll say it the wrong way, when I asked him what letter it starts with, he said the correct letter. But I think it would be a good idea to at least get him tested for speech. It was something that, in a sense, kind of ran through me and my husband's head because he was trying to say something to us and we wouldn't understand him, and he would get frustrated or he would figure out a different way to say it or use a different word. So it was something that we had already was looking at, but we didn't really think it was that bad. So when she encouraged it, I said, okay, it won't hurt to get him tested. So that's when we ended up going to, she said the teachers gave me the stuff for state, and I went to the state and got him tested.
And that was for speech only?
It was for speech therapy. Well, that's the IEP that they was taking him out for was for speech therapy.
Okay, and that was in preschool?
Yeah, he's still in preschool.
Okay.
When I contacted you, when I contacted you a year ago, actually, I think it's about to be exactly a year ago, he hadn't even been in public school system yet. This happened after I tried to get you to help me with that situation. He ended up getting pulled out during his school year this year.
Okay. So what's going on now? What's your concern at this time?
My concern is I want them to expunge it off of his record, like they originally said that they were going to do.
You want the speech IEP and the speech eval that led to the IEP removed.
Removed.
Here's my question.
I'm listening.
Did he ever receive the speech therapy at all?
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
And at the time he received it, you felt he needed it.
Negative. We were concerned. Oh, I took him to them, and they gave me a score of under 40, to the point where me and my husband started being concerned, because we didn't even think the issue was that crazy. They were like, we're going to try to get him help twice a week. I'm like, well, if his score was this low, why is twice a week? This makes no sense. This is scary. I don't understand. So I end up talking to other therapists, and they're like, if I got a record like this, I would have that child come in like 3 days a week. And I'm like, okay, so of course we went and got a second opinion. When we got a second opinion, she was like, nothing's wrong with your child. Your child is exactly where they need to be.
Okay, now stay with me. Let me come back to this now. He received speech therapy. Y'all signed off on it in order for him to receive it.
No, we signed off for him to get tested.
Okay, after he got tested, this is what happens. Once the evaluation is done, you get a copy of it, you sign it. Then they do the IEP, and then you sign that, and then they give you a service agreement, and you sign that. So he could have never received speech therapy without your signature.
They're acknowledging they did it on an accident. They apologized.
Okay, they apologized. So you're saying that they gave your son speech without your permission.
Correct.
And you never believed he wanted it, that he needed it anyway.
No, I didn't think. I felt like it was red flags. I didn't understand how the state was saying that my son's score was under 40. Under 40. Where when I took him to another speech therapist, she said his score was, I think it was like 7.
That's beside the point, though, with what we're dealing with. Stay with what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Because I'm asking you this for a reason, to see if whether or not you even have grounds to remove it. Okay, so you gave permission for the testing. But are you saying that you never signed agreement with the speech eval?
Never.
And you never signed permission for the speech therapy? Never. And you never, okay. Let me go back again. Why did you get him tested for speech at all?
Because when he was in pre-K at a little private school, and the lady wanted to start teaching him to read. But when for example, he would say the word, and this is just an example, I really not. He would say duck, suck. He would tell her the word was suck when it was really duck.
Okay,
so she wanted to teach him how to read, and I told her that would be fine. And she was like, my only concern is when he says stuff like duck, he pronounced it suck. She's like, but when I asked him what letter does the word suck that he's saying start with, he will say the D. She's like, I just want to make sure I'm not confusing him. So I was like, okay,
so you went along with the testing at the request of the teacher.
Correct.
But you never agreed, you never signed approval with the determination, and you never, so if what you're saying is accurate, you're saying that you never agreed with the report, and you never gave permission for therapy.
Correct. And then you can
get it removed. You can get it removed then. Because if you would have said, yes, I gave permission for therapy, and yes, he had a couple sessions, and then I decided that, ain't nothing wrong with him, then you couldn't take it. You could not remove it because you already agreed to it. But you're saying you never agreed to it and you never gave permission, so you can get it taken out. All you have to do is write a letter.
I got it taken off. They taking it off. I asked them to expunge it from his record because technically.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Taking it off means expunge it from the record. That's what we're talking about. So here's what. Who is they? When you say they, who
I contacted the state. It is, I guess, the Board of Education and the state, and I've been emailing them. Originally, like I said, the guy told me.
This is what you should do. If it were me, I would write a letter to the superintendent.
I did.
And I would carbon copy the chair of the school board and the principal. And I would specifically say that the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974 gives a parent the right to contest the legitimacy of paperwork in their child's file. And if the parent believes that there's paperwork in there that should not be in there, that inaccurate reflects on the child, or they never agreed to it, which is your case, it can be removed. And every school district in America has an officer in the school district whose job is to hear parent complaints about the paperwork in the child's file, and they help to decide whether the paperwork should stay or be removed. You need to let them know about FERPA 1974, because guess what? They might not even know. Say it again? FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, 1974.
1974. And then I guess another question I have to you is, because my issue is nothing's an issue until it's an issue. So with that being said, because he is in pre-K, in a sense, do you think this is a battle that's wasted energy, so to speak?
Say that again.
Because he's 5, and I'm like, my thoughts on it is nothing's a problem until it's a problem. So I don't want to give this the opportunity to become a problem, but at the same time, I do have to acknowledge the fact that he is 5. Like he's 5 years old. So I guess one of the issues was the school was saying because he's pre-K, not saying that his record doesn't matter, but his record doesn't matter until he actually gets in kindergarten and up.
I'm not following you. Okay, so the question
is this something that I should make into a big issue? Because it's been going on since September.
No, you should. The sooner you get rid of it, the better. The longer it stays in the record, the harder it is to remove it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So send them an email asking them about SERPA 1974.
You're not asking them, you're telling them.
Okay.
This is the federal law that says I have a right to dispute the paperwork in the file. Every school district must have an officer whose job is to hear parent complaints about the paperwork in the student's file. I have a right to have this removed because I never consented, I never agreed, and I need it removed. And if they continue to play about it, you have to contact the state attorney general, and you have to let the state attorney general know that this is a law, because guess what? They may not know. This is a law, FERPA 1974, that gives me the right to remove this from my child's file, and I need this eval removed because it's not accurate. I don't agree with it, and I never gave permission for the service.
So, now, question. Another situation that I had where one of the guys, where I think it was kind of like it wasn't a lawyer, but it was kind of the person that does the law in their departments or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they were telling me how